Good evening, everyone. I'm Bruce Palmer, president of your Jewish Federation. It's hard to believe that my first year as president is nearly over. While the pandemic has caused us to keep our distance, in some ways, I feel closer to the community and to our work more than ever before. And at this point in time, I could not be any prouder of our federation. I've also realized, despite spending years on the board, exec committee, and as past JCRC chair, how much I've learned about the federation system, and the critical role that it plays not only locally, but nationally and internationally. It has been fantastic. And while some situations have been challenging, I've enjoyed my first year serving the community in this role, working closely with our talented board of trustees, meeting frequently with our region's synagogue and agency presidents, connecting with our donors, volunteers, and rabbis. I've also enjoyed the experience of working closely with our motivated and hardworking professional staff. Willie Reck, who works tirelessly to make sure that Federation programs thrive and grow to meet the changing demands and needs of our community. While you, our Federation membership, make this all possible with your generous gifts to the annual campaign. Before I turn it over to Willie to give you some of the highlights of the year, I want to take a moment to thank you all again, not only for being here with us tonight to learn about what your support makes possible, but to celebrate the successes of this unprecedented year. While we will elect our 2022 board tonight and honor some of our most dedicated volunteers and leaders, including our kosher meal delivery drivers and our Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, Bob Dresser. We have a fun program for you, so sit back and enjoy, and thank you again. Willie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bruce. Hello, everyone. My name is Willie, and I'm the CEO of the Federation, and I'm really excited. I can't believe we're here for our 2021 annual meeting. It's also my 5th annual meeting, which is really crazy. I think I said at the first annual meeting when I was served in this role that this is a dream job, and it remains true. So it's really fun, and it's even more fun to see the success that the Federation has had due to the support of many of the people in this room. So thank you for being here tonight. Before we move on, I also want to thank Bruce again. Bruce is a really humble guy, but he is an incredibly hardworking guy. And as someone who has the privilege and pleasure of working with him, day and night, and sometimes both day and night in the same day, I can say that. And I've been very fortunate since I started here to have some really tremendous leadership and chairs in the organization, starting with Carol Lowe and then Deborah Gonzalez and now Bruce. And while I have lots of things I worry about, you can ask Peter on a daily basis, the Federation's leadership is not one of them. And so, Bruce, thank you for all you do. It's really fantastic. So again, it's hard to believe that we're coming in, out of our 2nd year of COVID, and the 2021 year is almost wrapping up. It's just hard to believe, and it's hard to believe everything that we've done when everything changed and we didn't know what or how we were going to do what we were going to do. And so I'm going to go through, and we're going to try to keep this short tonight because we have some very important people to celebrate. But I just want to tell you some highlights of what we did. And what's really special about this is that for us, selfishly, the Federation selfishly, federations were primed to respond to COVID. So many organizations were just trying to keep the doors open, and some couldn't even do that. And, I have friends on other boards in the community, and arts institutions struggled. Federations were primed. We care for people, we engage with people, and we connect with people. And that's what we did. And the community believed in us, and you believed in us, and we were there for the community. So here's just a few highlights. One is that we are on pace again to break a $750,000 annual campaign. This is really impressive considering that just 4 years ago, it was around $450,000. And so we've been able to increase services, increase staff, increase programs, and that's all due to the support of our annual campaign and designated programs. Another thing that we're incredibly proud of is that we've grown our long-term savings and endowments held by our friends at the Jewish Community Foundation of the West. And I think Michael, the new executive director, is on here tonight, and I hope all of you get a chance to meet him. But we've grown that from just over $200,000 in 2016 to over $1.5 million today, which is really, really incredible. And that just goes to show the community's trust and faith in us, and that we will be here in perpetuity to care for the community in the way that you expect us to do so. And so while, again, the year's not over, it's on the trajectory for a strong finish. And here are just a few of the things that we were able to do this year. One is that we were able to increase PJ Library enrollment to over 300 families in our region. Sacramento has a disproportionately large PJ enrollment list compared to the size of our campaign in our community. This costs us about $70,000 a year. And as the Jewish Funders Network, and I'm talking about big philanthropists, Schustermans, Bronfmans, that group, they have said that PJ Library is more impactful in connecting young people to Judaism than Birthright. And so in a community like this, where we're able to give the gift of PJ Library to over 1,300 families, that is just amazing. I want to thank everybody who's donated to PJ Library, including those who sponsored and donated our Connections event, and a specific thank you to Richard Robinson and Marjorie Swartz for their continued support of this program. I also want to talk about Jewish Family Service. And first, I want to recognize Michal, our Jewish family social worker, and Gloria Storer, our seniors program associate, both of whom have worked really, really hard this past year and every year since they've been here. No program we have has shown up and shined like Jewish Family Service in the midst of a pandemic. We were here with the limited resources that we have to care for people in so many different ways, from larger ways and more visible ways like the kosher meal delivery program, which you will hear about later tonight, to much smaller ways like our birthday club. And I just want to tell you about the birthday club because it's really, really important. It's probably something you'll never hear about except for when I tell you about it tonight. We had a Jewish Family Service client call the Federation. They get our grocery gift cards that when we transformed to virtual food pantry, and the client was crying. They had not received their grocery gift cards for the week. And so Nancy, our administrative associate, who's very good on the phone, took the message and talked to this person. And as the person began to calm down again, we also came to learn that it was the person's birthday, and the person had nobody. And so when Nancy talked to our Jewish family social worker, and also that it was this person's birthday, the social worker not only delivered the grocery gift cards, but picked up a cupcake and a card and brought it to this client. The client was sitting, waiting with tears in her eyes as we delivered the gift cards and the cupcake. A cupcake. I mean, just think about this. We all have grandparents, we all have mothers and fathers who we call, who we send flowers to, who we pay for a plane ticket to go visit. This person had nobody. So seeing the impact that this cupcake and this visit had on one client, we decided to start a birthday club, and we now have over 35 seniors in the region that we practice this birthday club on. It doesn't cost very much in terms of money. We do have funding for it, but it is one of the sweetest programs I've seen, and you help make that possible. I also wanted to share some, thanks to the generosity of Karen Rubin, we now have an indigent burial fund overseen by Jewish Family Service and the Federation. This is not something we've used often, but there are folks who pass away and who want a Jewish burial. And when the funds aren't available, who's going to pay for that? We've had to go out and raise money at the synagogues or from individuals when this has happened. Now we don't have to do that. When there is a Jewish person who passes away and needs a Jewish burial, the Federation and Jewish Family Service, thanks to the generosity of Karen Rubin, can help provide that service. And one other part, we have these emergency grants, thanks to an anonymous donor. People are hurting. I'll be driving home sometimes from work, worried about whatever it is I'm worried about, invitations or a decreased pledge, and I'll cross under the bridge on X Street or Y Street and see, people living under the bridge literally, and it's a quick shift in perspective. Or when our clients call. We had a client call who was crying because his walker broke, and he didn't have a way to get it fixed. Again, not very much money. We paid $260 and we delivered a brand new walker. We paid for hearing aids for a client, and we paid for home cleaning service for another client. These are not solutions to the problems that these clients face, but they are funds available to help them when they need help. And that's all due to you, our donors. And so thank you for making that possible. I want to talk to you about the film festival. We had an amazing film festival, our first virtual one. There were 24 films, 12 shorts, and representatives from 9 counties in our region, all the way from Chico and Redding too. We're getting ready to do this again. Many of you have read the Pew study, the new one on Jewish engagement, and there has been a decline in institutional Jewish engagement and away from synagogues. Now, we work with the synagogues. I am all for synagogue engagement. I belong to 5 of them. However, there are lots of people who want to be Jewish and do Jewish things that don't either know how to connect to a synagogue, don't belong to a synagogue. So what are they going to do besides get PJ library books for their family? They can come to the Jewish Film Festival. And we're excited that we're going to be doing this again this coming spring or late winter spring. It is going to be a virtual platform. However, we are planning to do 2 in-person events, but we will continue to monitor the situation, and based on the pandemic and the variant, see if that is indeed possible. We also have been quite successful in engaging young adults. One is through our One Table program. We have had over 300 young adults from the region participate in One Table. Now, One Table, all it is an app where young people go on and sign up for a Shabbat dinner. That's it. We are providing the gift of Shabbat to young adults throughout the region. It's been really, really incredible. So we've had 160 dinners with 300 users this year, and 100 of those users are brand new. Another very cool thing, and I know there's some people on here this will resonate with more than others. We want to help build the next generation of Jewish leadership in this community. And so I am so excited about this. It's been over about 20 years since Sacramento has had national representation on the National Young Leadership Cabinet. We now have 3 members from our community on JFNA's National Young Leadership Cabinet, including my husband, Peter's on it, Ryan Berdovsky, and our own Karen Nogan-Zemansky. This is the premier leadership program in the Jewish world, and it's amazing that we have 3 leaders from our community there representing our community nationally. Okay, I'm almost done, I promise. Fortunately, I need to touch on some things that were not as pleasant. Anti-Semitism is on the rise. The attacks on Israel are on the rise, both physically, verbally, etc. And I am incredibly proud of the way that our organization and federation was able to respond. It is not easy speaking for the community in times like this, but let me be very clear that we stand for the state of Israel, and we will stand up to anti-Semitism, and we will continue to do that. Going back to the physical war on Israel in the spring, when we rallied a virtual prayer vigil, a press conference with every major news outlet and the Council General, a rally on the steps, to the most recent situation here in our community involving CARE and our very strong stance for the dangerous and obscene and ridiculous things that were said. And so I'm grateful to our leadership. I'm grateful to the Federation. I'm grateful that we were able to speak up for the community in those very, very difficult times. A little brighter part about Israel is that we were also able to provide 13 Teen Israel scholarships now that kids are hopefully going back to Israel, although that again may change. And that's thanks to the generosity of Larry and Sharon Saltzman and Tammy and Michael Rochman, who also stepped up. So, things are good. Internally, we couldn't do any of this without the staff. We are a very small but mighty staff, and I just want to give them a shout out personally. We have Nancy Hernandez, who's on our front line. She's our administrative associate. We have Adam Eisenberg, who's our magnificent communications director. Kelly Brogan, our wonderful campaign associate, Michal Gabay, our JFS social worker, Gloria Storer, our wonderful JFS Seniors Program Associate, and Jessica Braverman Birch, our Special Projects Coordinator, who does all things regarding Film Festival and JCRC. So that is the impact report. Thank you for making all of this and so much more possible. I'm grateful you're here with us this evening, and I turn it back over to Bruce.
Thank you very much, Willie. Let's go back to the minutes. Danny, can you post our minutes from last year's meeting so we can approve them? Okay, you should have all received a copy of this in the email today. I don't know if you can read, it's a little bit blurred there. It might take a second to glance. Okay, do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, are the mutes off? Would we hear ayes and nays, or do we need to raise hands?
Bruce, I'm sorry, I didn't catch who was seconded. Who seconded the motion?
Who seconded the motion?
Steve Raffin.
Steve,
thanks, Steve.
thank you. We can take the minutes down. We can probably do raising. I can't. Okay, everybody in favor of the minutes, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, minutes are approved. Thank you very much. I'm going to continue with a brief report. I want to thank Willie again for everything that he's done. It's truly incredible what the Federation has done this year. Before we go on, as I said, I wanted to share a few highlights that were made possible because of the leadership of our extraordinary treasurer, Fran Bremson, who stepped down earlier this year. Under Fran's direction, the Federation saw the creation of a very talented, diverse and dedicated finance committee who worked extremely hard to develop and update our financial policies that our organization adopted earlier this year. This document includes everything from internal policies and procedures reading spending and oversight to an updated gift acceptance plan and the creation of a reserve account. Additionally, our strong internal controls, procedures, transparency, and protocols once again led to a clean, unmodified opinion from our auditing firm, the best rating an organization can receive. Fran, for all of this and much more, I thank you for your service, time, and leadership. You left the organization in stronger shape than you found it, and we are grateful. As we move forward from thanking those who made this year possible to those who will continue to do amazing work, I want to turn the program over to my predecessor and immediate past president, Deborah Gonzalez, to present the slate for the 2022 Federation Board of Trustees. Deborah, thank you for all your work as nominations chair and also for everything you did under your presidency to set up the strength and the successes that this organization continues to see. Deborah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bruce. So first, I really just wanted to thank my nominating committee, which consisted of Ryan Brodowski, Bob Dresser, myself, Bruce, Willie, and Dan Weitzman. What I'm going to do now is present the slate of officers for fiscal year 2022. President Bruce Palmer, Vice President Don Gilbert, Vice President Marianne Leff, Treasurer Pam Herman, Secretary David Poisner. I will still be the immediate past president. And our current JCRC chair is Sharon Rogoff. And then our trustees at large, I mean, I'm very proud to say with the exception of Bob stepping off the board, everybody who was a trustee at large agreed to continue. So we have Cliff Berg, Julie Bernstein Klein, Barry Broad, Mike Dean, Chris Druin, Phil Fine, Lindy Henderson, Karen Keys, Rob Lane, Karen Nogan, Madeline Rubenstein, and Dan Weitzman. That is the slate.
So if there is no further discussion, nominations, do I hear a motion in support of the slate?
I did.
So
Who's that?
moved.
Who moved?
Madeline.
Done.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second it.
Hal Eisenberg.
Thank you, Hal, very much. We have a motion and a second. I assume there's no further discussion. All those in favor signify by raising your hands for the slate. Okay, all those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay, motion passes. Thank you, and congratulations to our 2022 board.
Yay.
I want to give a special welcome to a couple of our board members, to Marion Leff, who will be joining our executive committee and has done a remarkable job with the JFS program and also leading our community study. And to Pam Herman, who is not only joining our board, but is taking on the incredibly important role of treasurer. Pam has an amazing amount of experience as the executive of the Jewish Community Foundation of the West. Years ago, she also spent several years on the Federation Executive Committee. So with her and Marion added to her executive committee, we're very pleased. And there's no doubt that their professional experience will add a lot to what we do and work for in this community. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Rabbi Matt Friedman, Chair of the Board of Rabbis, to do the installation of our 2022 board. Matt.
Thank you, Bruce. It's always an honor to speak before Federation. A little bit of prehistory. 20 years ago, I was a staff member of the Federation, and I was the Director of Outreach for the JCRC. And on September 10th, we had a program at Mosaic Law about terrorism. And people don't remember that program very well, but they do remember what happened the next day on September 11th. And previous to that, we had been dealing with the Intifada in Israel. And we all know what happened after 9/11. And throughout that time into the present, the Federation has always had a presence in this community in the ways that Willie spoke about and Bruce as well. And that tradition has continued. And so it's an honor to be here tonight as we install the new board as they go forward, going on to even greater heights and accomplishments. But I do want to give a special shout out tonight to Carol Velarde, who's an honoree this evening. And Carol was one of the very first people I met in Sacramento and was instrumental in learning in her teaching me about the community and supporting so many wonderful activities. So it's very special this evening to see this recognition going on. So first, I would like to introduce 5 quick concepts in the form of hoping that this new board will continue to exemplify these concepts. One is manhidut, which is leadership, ahava, which is love, achudut, which is unity, chazon, which is vision, and koach, which is strength. May each of you as individual board members be blessed with these attributes, and may you share them with the community. And now I ask the entire board to take this affirmation. Do you, as leaders of the Sacramento Jewish community, specifically the board of directors of the Federation of the Sacramento region affirm your intent desire to support this community, to further the mission and vision of not just the Sacramento Federation, but the Federation movement across the country, that you will be strong and steadfast supporters of the Jewish community and in the land of people of the state of Israel, and that you will, to the best of your ability, continue to move our community forward, and that when we gather again next year, we will once again hear Willie recite many accolades of accomplishments and achievements. If you're willing to ascend and take on this responsibility, signify by saying, I do.
I do.
I do.
I now commend you to be members of the board of trustees of this crucial and integral organization. And let me close also with wishing to our staff under the direction of Willie Recht a joyful, successful, and wondrous year ahead, that we too will hear of your deeds when we gather again next year.
Thank you, Rabbi Friedman. I wrote down those 5 pillars in English so I can think about them throughout the next year. And I want to welcome my fellow Board of colleagues, members of the 2022 Board of Trustees. I'm looking forward to working with everyone. And yes, I'm Marian Leff, and you heard what I do on the board. I'm the JFS liaison. And tonight is very special for me. One of the reasons is we get to recognize some really dedicated, incredible volunteers who throughout a pandemic, wearing masks, have dedicated themselves to hundreds of hours and over 70 Friday afternoons delivering hot kosher meals, Shabbat dinners, to homebound members of our community. These volunteers, and you will hear from 2 of them tonight, are the backbone of the kosher meal delivery program. And they are, in fact, the worthiest recipients of the Volunteer of the Year Award. This program, the brainchild of past President Carol Lowe, was started just as the pandemic rolled out. And the program is not just about bringing hot meals to homebound individuals, but it's really more about that connection. That connection is probably the most important thing during a time when people have been isolated. Thanks to our partnership with the Einstein Center, the generous support of our donors, including the Trust Fund for the Jewish Elderly, and of course, the incredible staff, Gloria Storer and Michal Gabe with Jewish Family Services, and Rebecca Ray prior to Michal. We have been able, with our volunteer drivers, to deliver between 15 and 23 meals every week, with over 1,000 meals in total delivered. So before we hear from 2 of our volunteer drivers about this program, which is so important, I want to thank all of our volunteer drivers and wish you mazel tov for this much deserved award. And I'm so glad I've seen many of your faces there on Zoom tonight. This is very meaningful work that you do. And you will be the recipients of something special delivered to you drivers over the next few weeks. And I have no idea what that is, so that will be exciting. So let me name now out loud for everyone to hear our kosher meal deliverers, drivers: Alex Covey, David Julian, Eileen Carroll, Jackie Barakasa, Jordan Olanik, Julie Vincent, Phyllis Blum, and Shira Gilbert. And we also have backup drivers. They jump in when we're in need. Somebody is out of town and we couldn't do the work without them. And this includes Fred Hayward, Jason Weiner, Margie Park Landau, and Larry Friedman. So we want to share more about this experience with you now. And I think we're going to hear in a video from Jackie and Jordan.
Hi everyone, my name is Jackie and I'm one of the delivery drivers for the kosher meal delivery program. I first got involved in the program when one of my friends, Jordan, asked my partner Alex and I if we wanted to participate. It was shortly after COVID hit and we honestly didn't have much going on the weekends with everything being shut down, and so we decided to give it a shot. And we also thought, it would be a great opportunity to help some people in need, especially during such a challenging time. When we first started, we were assigned to a really nice lady named Sylvia and her husband Martin. Sylvia and I actually have a little bit of a similar background. We're both French and Jewish, and so I really enjoyed, exchanging a few words in French with her each week. And she also made me some cookies for the holidays, which was really nice. She would make me blue and white cookies for Hanukkah, and then for Purim she would make hamantashen, and she would fill them with almond paste and fig, which was a little bit of a homage to the French, which I really enjoyed, and gave me a little bit of a taste of home. Eventually, Sylvia did drop out of the program, but we've been assigned to so many awesome and nice people since then, and everyone is always just so nice and appreciative of us delivering these meals to them. And so I just want to end by saying thank you to everyone who makes these meals and to the Federation for putting on this program. You really are putting a smile on all of these people's faces, and it's really, really nice to just see them so happy to receive these meals every week. Everyone is always saying how these are the most delicious meal that they get all week, or their favorite part of the week. And so just to say you're really doing something good here. So thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Jordan Alanik, and I was a volunteer with JFS Kosher Meal Delivery with Rebecca and Gloria. I was fortunate enough to volunteer since the outset of the pandemic and wanted to pay it forward to those less fortunate or mobile during a time of need. I found it important to help because I have grandparents, and this service provides some minor relief from COVID exposure and a source of much needed connection. Now I'd like to share a few examples of connections. David Julian found his delivery unresponsive and may well have saved a man's life. Alex and Jackie Covey supported a spouse when they needed it most, and I was able to help with legal and dental assistance for a woman in need. Now, this is an excellent program, and I am so thankful to Rebecca, to Gloria, to Michal, Willie, all the donors and all the volunteers, and everyone else who made this happen. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much for what you've done. And now it's amazing, absolutely amazing what you've done as volunteers. And it's so important towards keeping our programming going. And it makes an incredible difference. And I love to see the warmth that is projected by that. We create so much good feeling in the community by doing that. And we develop some great relationships. Now we'd like to go on to our Lifetime Achievement Award, and we have a number of videos to honor Bob Dresser, our award recipient tonight.
Bob, you are a mensch. When the community has a need, you always step forward, sharing your time, your expertise, your passion, and your compassion. You seem tireless in your commitment. You care deeply about your community and show it in so many ways. When we work together, I could always count on you for your good sense and dependable, intelligent leadership. The relations you help to build with the greater community, Black, Asian, Hispanic, interfaith, strengthened us all. When the Jewish Community Relations Council went into decline, you worked to revive it, understanding the need for an organization to represent and speak for the entire Jewish community. I lost count of the years you spent leading and nurturing JCRC.
And even though fundraising would probably not be your first choice of a way to spend your time, you once again stepped up, leading the Federation campaign. We could hardly believe it and wished you good luck. We have known you for so many years and feel fortunate to count you as a friend. We love that Choco has brought you so much joy to your life and wish you many more years together in good health.
Love, Anne.
And Hal.
When I think about Bob Dresser, and I've described him this way to other people many times over the decades, Bob Dresser is the Energizer Bunny of our community. He is unstoppable. He is unflappable. No matter what obstacle you put in the way, he's just this cute man who pushes aside ever so gently every obstacle to get to where he wants to go. And I totally admire that, because I am the opposite of the Energizer Bunny. I might have some energy, but I'm no bunny. Anyway, I first really got to know Bob and first discovered him to be our community's Energizer Bunny when KVIE decided, for completely ridiculous reasons, that it wasn't going to air a frontline documentary on the rise of modern anti-Semitism because it might be upsetting to people in the community. And I was outraged by that. And I called him because he was in one of his many terms as the head of the JCRC, and was like, "Are you guys doing something about this thing?" And he was like, "Yeah, we're going down to a meeting. You want to come? We're going to go meet with the station director." And I was like, "Okay, put me down for it." And not only did I go to the meeting, but from that very moment, through sort of the example of Bob's persistence, which ultimately got it, that thing was aired in Sacramento, I really saw the incredible value of participating in our community as a volunteer. And I, wound up very shortly thereafter on the board of the JCRC, and then ultimately, kind of taken my turn as the chair of the JCRC, and all the things that I've done in the community, I think, are largely attributable to Bob's leading by example. And I have followed him from one idea to another that he's had. A program about, just to name a few, a program about publicizing Israel's water conservation technology as a way of moving beyond the usual discourse about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, to just lately this idea that seemed to spring forth from his head spontaneously, that we should build a bomb shelter in Ashkelon, which I think is a wonderful project. And no matter what these things are, just like the Energizer Bunny, Bob just moves every single obstacle out of the way. He's a mensch.
In the last millennium, Bob Dresser served as a highly effective chair of the Jewish Community Relations Council. He established great relations with community groups throughout the city, and really represented the Jewish community very ably. Fast forward to this millennium, and Bob joined the Federation Board, where he has served for many years now. Bob really represents the spirit of tzedakah and tikkun olam. He works tirelessly for immigrant rights, for labor rights, and for the Jewish community. He does this with his money, but also by reaching out to many of us to solicit contributions. He does this with a smile and a soft touch that is irresistible. Bob, you richly deserve this Lifetime Commitment Award. Congratulations.
I'm Darrell Steinberg, the mayor of Sacramento, but more importantly, I'm Bob Dresser's longtime friend. Nearly 40 years ago, when I moved to Sacramento, not knowing anyone, I had the great fortune in life of meeting Bob Dresser. And Bob introduced me to so many people in the Jewish community and gave me my start. Over those nearly 40 years, we have not only been and will always be dear friends, but I have witnessed what a man of conscience can mean for the community. And I've witnessed that through Bob Dresser, the mensch of Sacramento, the man who is always volunteering, always stepping up, always willing to work, always willing to lend his voice, always willing to do the right thing, always with a loving heart and a big brain. Bob, this Lifetime Achievement Award for you is so richly deserved, and I'm just so happy that you are getting the recognition that you deserve, because you don't do it for the recognition. You never have. You just do the right thing. I'm proud to call you my dear, dear friend, even if you're a Dodger and a Ram fan. I've let that go for decades, and I'll continue to let that go. I love you. You're great, and thank you.
My dear friend Bob, Mazel Tov on receiving the Jewish Federation's Lifetime Service Award. I'm honored to have this opportunity to thank you in this fashion for your service on both the Federation Board and the JCRC, both on multiple occasions and both as chair and board member. It was a match made in heaven, given your love for the Jewish community and for Israel. And so fitting, given that Tikkun Olam is tantamount to breathing for you. The events and activities that you conceived, supported, and/or implemented are countless, and those of us who've served with you are the better for the experience. It's my belief that you made a similar impact on the Sacramento community at large, Bob, thanks to the relationships you established with leaders of ethnic, racial, religious, and community-based organizations. Robin Ware, Jerry and Dorothy Enomoto, Cruz Reynoso, Alex Eng, Father Kiernan, Caius Manufi. The list would be endless. Our communities came together to celebrate customs and to explore mutual interests and values. Shared events included seders and banquets, marches and ceremonies, and nonpartisan political and public policy forums that addressed immigration, healthcare issues, social justice, religious liberty, and more. Independently, the JCRC hosted speakers from Israel for firsthand reports of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, worked with the superintendents of schools to ensure accommodations for Jewish students regarding test taking and religious observance schedules, with the U.S. Attorney in response to hate crimes and vandalism in the Jewish community, and defeated efforts by BDS supporters at the food co-op. You were a part of it all, and so much more. Those who've served with you have seen your endless well of energy and willingness to give, if it will benefit the Jewish community. Thank you for all you've done.
Bob, what can I say? It's been great fun and doing great things over the last many years. Our friendship started back in 1985 when we were both members of the Human Rights and Fair Housing Commission. There, you were a leader along with Andrea Rosen and me to make some great policy, including the development of an ordinance that prevented private clubs from banning women from their membership. 4 years later, you were a great fundraiser for my city council campaign.
Got that.
Along the way, there were many causes that we joined forces on, including working to elect our good friend Darrell Steinberg to the council, the assembly, the Senate, and finally mayor. And 7 years ago, you got me started on my path with the Federation as a member of the JCRC. My service on the Federation board further enhanced my appreciation of your incredible ability to develop long-lasting and meaningful friendships. And once someone is your friend, they're always your friend, and your loyalty can be counted on. This in turn led to your success as probably the most accomplished fundraiser in our Federation. Your efforts to raise funds for shelters protecting the citizens of Ashkelon from rocket fire were simply amazing. I want to let you know that we will be developing some mementos of this evening to give to you, hopefully in person at a later date. And one more thing, Bob, and it's kind of along the lines of Mayor Steinberg, so you can guess what's coming. For the next 24 hours, in your honor, I'm going to personally wish the best for the Dodgers and the Rams, excuse me. But Bob, after that, all bets are off because you know I'm fanatic about my Giants and 49ers. So having said all that, it is with a great deal of pleasure that I want to confer on you the 2021 Lifetime Achievement Award for the Jewish Federation of the Greater Sacramento region. Bob, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. That's my wife clapping. You know, it looks like I'm going to have to renew my pledge to the Federation for 2022 after all that. I also wanted to wish Mazel Tov to Carol Velarde, richly deserving of the award that she will be getting. I also want to remember two people who served on the JCRC, Janet Ulmer, who recently passed away, and Susan Mogul. They both did great work on the education. This is the second honor that I've recently received. The first occurred last Wednesday at the Heathrow Airport, and some young man looked at me and said, "You look like Joe Biden." And sure enough, about 3 other people had said that about the week before. So I'm very proud of that because I'm older than Joe, and it must think that I appear a lot younger than I am. But in any event, thank you for that. I want to acknowledge everyone who helped me, helped the community. We all did it together. Just a few things, a few names I wanted to mention. Joe Samuel and Steve Fishbein, who were the chairs of JCRC back in the late 70s, when I first was sent over by B'nai Israel to the JCRC as a representative. And Ann Eisenberg really did teach me so much about community relations and about the Federation. And she was tireless in her efforts to involve the Jewish community and the greater community. And I think she did a really outstanding job. I was to the Federation minding my own business on Wide Away when Brian Landsberg came up and said that there were some issues with the JCRC at the time, and he thought it'd be good if I joined the Federation board. And so I did, and Cliff Berg and Cliff was on the Federation board, did help to get the Federation to continuously fund JCRC for some of its very good activities. So I really appreciate the work that Cliff did. I've also, of course, been privileged to work with Daryl, and I know in his heart of hearts he's a Rams fan. But another thing that I do remember was kind of painful. We were playing softball and at the Federation on Wide Away, and I was rounding third base, tearing into home plate, and all of a sudden the left fielder, Daryl, throws a rocket and hits me in the back of the head. And I've never been the same, Daryl. But I do appreciate your great work as a city council person, assemblyman, a state senator, and now as mayor. You've done so much to help people with mental health disabilities, as well as the general public. And you've been a very strong supporter of the Jewish community and of Israel. And I just wanted to thank you for that. And I must, and Bruce, just give me about 2 or 3 more minutes. I know this is more
absolutely
minute and a half. I did want to thank Theo Goodwin for his advice on many ways, and same with Ralph Lubick, Ray Jacobson, Hal Eisenberg, and Ken Budman, who've all been very helpful in my coming up with any ideas that I've come up with. I also wish to acknowledge that after Susan passed away, that Carol Lowe was kind enough to make me co-chair of the campaign, I think in order to kind of bring me out of the sadness. And I learned a lot from Carol about Federation, because Carol had been very involved with Federation in San Francisco. So I appreciated that very much. When I was a member of JCRC, I thought that my time and my efforts were enough, and I had very minimal pledges to the Federation. Then when I got on the board, I realized all the important activities that have already been mentioned by Bruce and Willie that the board is responsible for. And whether it's referrals to social workers or mental health workers, or an Israel Independence Day, or the wonderful program that has been mentioned on the food deliveries on Shabbat, it all takes money. And as a result, I was forced to kind of re-examine my original thinking, and I decided to increase my pledges over the years. And we'll make a bequest of my will for that. It's been a pleasure, and I'm almost done, to work with Willie Reck. To work with Willie and the current board, including Barry, who did such a wonderful job in combating the BDS efforts, Lindy Henderson and Phil Fine, with whom I worked on campaign, Fran Bremson, who I think really brought a lot to the board as treasurer in terms of procedures and good ideas, Don Gilbert, Sharon Rogroff, David Poisner, Marion Leff, not on the board, Larry Freeman and I have talked, Deborah Gonzalez, and our chair, Bruce Palmer. I want to just mention one thing about Bruce. When we're on the Human Rights Fair Housing Commission, some guy came to speak publicly, and he represented himself as a member of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. I don't think he was Palestinian, and he asked that I be removed from the commission. And the only commissioner to stand up and speak immediately was Bruce Palmer, who I hardly knew. And I didn't even realize that he was Jewish. And he gave a great defense. And the board, with just one abstention, voted to keep me on the board. I just wanted to finally say that after several decades of JCRC and Federation involvement, my main conclusion is that we in the Jewish community have to support each other, and we have to find common ground on issues, including really controversial issues, and work together, because there is this rise in anti-Semitism that everyone is talking about. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And we have to have each other's backs. And again, where at all possible, find common ground and support each other as best we can. And also to support the state of Israel as a Jewish homeland. I just wanted to say that I hope one day we have a Jewish community center like the one on Olympic Boulevard near my home in Los Angeles, where I grew up. And I hope Jordan is successful in coordinating that. So I'll say shalom and thank you.
Thank you so much, Bob. That was a wonderful set of remarks. We really appreciate it. It's a memorable part of this evening. We were going to hear from Phil Fine this evening. Unfortunately, he was unable to make it. So he wanted to thank all of you, as our campaign chair. He wanted to thank you all for your generosity. It's been a great year for that. And I want to say good evening to you all. Thanks for coming. And that completes our program.
Bye. Good night.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you too.
Yeah, we're adjourned.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Mazel tov, everybody.
Yay.
Bye.
Mazel tov, Bob.
Bye.
Stay safe.